Hello and welcome to another review from Class 47 Peter, and today we are here to look at a Bachmann model, and today's video is going to be something special. This review would have been a review on the standard 4MT tank. Don't worry, that review's still happening, but I just had to have this video as the next review. What makes it special is it's a Class 47, as you can see clearly, which is my all-time favourite diesel locomotive, but also this particular Class 47 is a limited edition. It's produced exclusively for Kernow Model Centre, which is the first time I've ever bought anything from them, let alone the first Kernow limited edition model I've got. It's not very often I get limited edition models. I do get them here and there, but not very often. But when I saw this on the internet, when I heard about it on the Hornby Magazine Facebook page, I just had to have it. This particular Class 47 is D1670 Mammoth, which is the Class 47 that operated on the Western region. And what makes this even more special is that this is actually a model I had when I was a little kid. Okay, it wasn't the Bachmann one, because Bachmann have only just now released this particular model of D1670 Mammoth. Back then it was the Hornby model, which, looking back at it now, it's not really that much of a good model, but considering the year it came out for what it was, well, fairly decent, but in today's standards the model is nowhere near as what you're going to get in terms of detail and how stunning it is that you're getting now with Hornby, Bachmann, Helgen, V-Trains and so on. And I can tell you now, this model just wipes the floor with the older Hornby model. Okay, so first of all we're going to get to the unboxing. So first of all we take off the box sleeve, which is the usual standard Bachmann packaging we see now. Nothing special, and on the back you have the brief history. Then we take out the plastic tray, or casing, whatever you want to call it. And as soon as we take that out, we should be able to get to all the paperwork inside. Okay, so first of all we have the manual for the model, and it's all the usual stuff that we've seen before basically. On this side it's the care sheet, as I've talked about before, with parts that you can order if you lose them, damage them, or they're missing. And on the back you have the instructions fitting the details, the general stuff, body removal, lights, lubrication, fitting a DCC decoder, and all the rest that you have seen before in these manuals. So that'll go on the folder of instructions later. And then we come on to the leaflet, which shows the warranty service, the product maintenance and care, the guarantee, and the collector club. Now we come on to this envelope, because there are some items for the model inside. And in this envelope we have etched nameplates to go on the side of the model, and the certificate, which in this case the model is limited edition of 512. So I'm presuming that's the amount they've made, or maybe that's just the number, because each model of these limited edition models is numbered. Now the reason why these are in an envelope is because you're meant to get them in the box with the model, but as you just saw me opening the box up, these items were nowhere in sight, and that was because they forgot to put them in, because I did send Kernow an email about this, and they sent an email back saying that they would get them in the post the following week. So these bits of photos and footage have actually been filmed after reviewing the review itself. Only to this part in the video, it's edited so that it's after opening the paperwork out of the box. And the reason why they left them out is because they actually put them in themselves. It's not something Bachmann do, Kernow do it, because the nameplates are made by Kernow, and the certificate is also made by Kernow, so that explains why they are put in by them. Or at least I think the nameplates are made by them, because it does say Kernow written on them, on the sprue. But you know, when you get limited edition models like this, you do expect them to be in the box, but you know, that's a mistake other manufacturers could make, to be fair, so it's not just something that can happen with Kernow. It is slightly annoying when you do get the model and they're not in the box, but we can't really do much about that, but it's just one of them things. But they're here now, so that's the important. Right, moving back to the unboxing, so now we slide off the plastic cover, and then upon doing so we can remove the detail parts out of the box and have a look at those. And there is quite a lot in this detail bag, it should be said. Now, as I've said, you do get a lot of detail parts in this bag. One of the detail parts you get is this big detail part, which you can see an arrow on screen pointing to exactly which detail part I'm talking about. I do not know what this detail part is. When I first opened up the detail bag, I assumed it was something for DCC sound, but a closer look at it, it doesn't even resemble a speaker that you would use for DCC sound. And also, this detail part is meant to be fixed in place with some screws, but there aren't any supplied in the bag, which is a little strange. So I'm not entirely 100% certain what this detail part is. It might be a spare bit of detail perhaps, I don't know. Other details you do get in the bag, however, are some black Snowplows, which is interesting because this particular locomotive, at least in the photographs I've seen, doesn't show D1670 Mammoth fitted with any snowplow, so I will not be adding them on. But I will put them into my spares box because they could be used on other locomotives in the future perhaps. Diesel locomotives obviously. And you also get a chain link coupling in there, and loads of vacuum pipes, and you also get a Nem coupling as well. And you also get some other little bits of detail as well, which is optional, whether you choose to fit them or not. And so now we take the model out of the box by undoing the clip and lifting it up, lifting the model out of the packaging, and then we are free to have a look at the model in detail now. And then we can just put the empty box to one side. They don't go in the bin though, I recommend you keep the locomotive boxes. So with the model now out of the box, we can now go into detail, but firstly we're going to talk about the weight, as I always do in these reviews. It's a very heavy model, and that's because there's a lot of weight packed into the model, and that is important because, as I've said many times before, if this model didn't have any weight or wasn't as heavy as it is, it wouldn't be able to put any rolling stock on the layout, which is why the weight is important, because we need it. Because without this weight it will be useless. Now we can come on to the detail. So first of all, we do have sprung buffers on the model, so if you like sprung buffers then you'll be happy to know that. On the buffer beam you can see there are holes for the detail parts to go into. We also have some separately fitted lamp irons, as you can see, and also separately fitted handrails on the front there. And also we do have a chain link coupling which has been added, not by me, it's come like that. That's because Bachmann's 47s do have the chain link coupling at the one end glued in. And also you do have some other detail parts, as you can see there, just above the buffer beam. I'm not entirely sure what they are. I think there might be something so that the crew can climb up to the front of the locomotive if they want to. That detail part, or those detail parts should say rather, actually get them at both ends, are fragile, so do be careful with them. On the front of the loco we have the warning signs or stickers, whatever you want to call them, We also have another separately fitted lamp iron and another separately fitted handrail. And on this end of the loco, we have the train reporting number, which on this end reads 1C10, and the head codes light up because this model does have working lights. It's not just the head codes though that light up, but you'll see later on when we come to the running. Sticking with the front ends of the locomotive, we have glazing fitted in all the cab windows, like there should be, separately fitted window wipers, and also we have rivets around the window frames, which adds that bits of detail and it adds more realism, because in reality the Class 47s did have rivets around the window frames, and so that is just fantastic that Bachmann have added that detail on the model, because like I've said, it adds the realism to it, makes it more realistic and more like the real thing. In this end of the cab we also have a driver fitted, and this is something that Bachmann do in all their diesel locos. It would be nice if Bachmann do this with their steam locos as well, because that would be nice to see. One thing with these drivers that Bachmann had in the diesel locos, they seem to have a habit of always putting them in at the end where the fans are. In this case, the driver is no longer fitted in this end of the cab. I have moved him into the other end of the loco, where the fans are not. However, it was a pain to do because it was a pain to get the body off, which is something I will talk about later and explain more of later why. However, even if the body was a pain to get off, that's not something I'm going to be marking the model down for, because, you know, whether the body's a pain or not to remove, it's not really going to affect the score of the model in my opinion, because other than that I don't really see anything else wrong with this model. Moving on to the doors, we have a door handle there and some metal handrails, and again in the doors there's also glazing just like there is in the cab windows. One thing I love about this model, and it's not just in this one cab, is that how Bachmann have made it so that one of the windows has been wound down to let some air into the cab for the driver. And again, it's details like that that make the model look more realistic, and also you can just about see some cab detail there. It's not painted, but hey, it's there, so we'll give them credit for that. Then we have the running number of the loco, D1670, which is crisply printed on the side, and we have some works plate of some sort printed just underneath it. I can't read what it says, but it's there, and that looks really nice. Just on the end of the buffer beam, where it tends to stick out a bit, in this particular photo as you can see, you do have some nice detail here with some rivets on it. I'm not entirely sure what it's for, but it's there just like on the real locomotive, and it's little details like that that make a lot of difference. Moving on to the bogie detail, we have footsteps for the driver to climb up into the cab, axle boxes and springs, and with this model the axle boxes are painted, which is not something that the manufacturers tend to do a lot of, because you don't very often see painted axle boxes on models. Not that they need to be painted, but they're there, and on the real locomotive D1670 had yellow axle boxes, so it's nice to see that Bachmann have painted them. Then we move on to the fuel tank. Now normally the fuel tanks are not the most interesting thing to look at, but in this case they are, because you do have some extra detail on them what you usually get. Rivets, and there's plenty of them on there, and all the other usual fuel tank details, which makes it more interesting to look at. And just for the record, I'm going to show you the detail on the other bogies, pretty much the same as the other one that we've just seen. Then we move on to the side windows of the Class 47, and in these windows there's also glazing fitted in them, just like there should be. Then we come into the door, which is used to get to the engine, and also have some nice detail there, just down the side. Not entirely 100% certain what it is, but it's there, and also you have a warning sign as well. As it did on the real loco, this model has the BR Lake crest, which is crisply printed on the side of the model, and it looks stunning. And up close you can see the work of art detail on it. And then we come on to the nameplates on the model. Now in this case these ones are printed on, so you can either add the etched ones or not. I will add the etched ones on, but you don't have to if you don't want to. It's an option sort of thing. But I do like the etched nameplates, and so I will be adding them on. Moving on to the other end of the cab, as you can see, the loco's running number again, crisply printed on the side. The door handle and the handrails, and like I said earlier, glazing in the cab windows, and that little bit of detail again on the buffer beam. And just like on the other end, on this end, of course, you have sprung buffers. At this end of the loco, we have the Nem coupling, and all the holes for the details to go into. And on this end, you do not have the chain link coupling, but you do get one in the bag to add on. Again, you have separately fitted lamp irons and handrails, and also you have those little bits of detail that I spoke about earlier that just stick out of the front of the cab. Just like in the other end of the cab, obviously you have the window wipers and the glazing and the cab detail, and of course on this end you do not get a driver in the cab. And also you have those rivets around the window frames again. It's hard to see in this photo, but you can just about make them out, but they are there, of course. And on this end of the cab, just like on the other end, you have the separately fitted handrail and lamp iron and the warning signs, and also you have another train reporting number or head code, whatever you want to call it. And in this case, this one reads 6B28. Moving on to the roof detail now, and we have loads of grills on the roof, which have a lovely texture finish to them and feel. On the roof we do have some rivets, as you can see here in this photo, and then we have this little bit of detail which I'm not sure what it's used for on the real locomotive, but it's there on the model. Of course you get some other detail on the roof, such as this detail here which is painted white, and in reality this is the detail that opens up to other parts of the engine, which are some type of latches, if that's what you want to call them. And it's nice that they are painted, because again that adds to the detail of the model. Then of course we have the roof fans with the mesh grills over them. Now the fans do not spin, that is Hornby's thing. They don't spin on the Bachmann model, but then they don't really need to. And in this photo here you can see some more rivet detail as well. They can just about make out. And then we have the exhaust port where all the diesel fumes and the clag comes out of. And we also have some rivets around the exhaust port as well. Now we come on to the livery, which is just as important as everything else that a model needs and has. The livery is spot on. They've got both shades of green correct, and they have done it just like the real thing. They've done it in the way that you've got the dark green on the bottom of the locomotive and the top, where the side windows and cab windows are, and then you've got the dark green just under the door there, and then you've got the light shade of green in the middle. And that is done just like as you see on the real thing, and they've made it so that the paintwork looks neat and so it doesn't look messy, of course, because if it did, then that wouldn't look very good. And the livery just looks so stunning. One last thing before we come on to the running performance, this model does have a bit of a trump card. Under the fuel tank you can see these switches, and these are for the lights. So you have the option of whether you want to turn them off or not. And so you can either turn the cab lights or the tail lights off. On this case they're both on because I want to leave them on the model. But you can turn them off if you want to at any point. And it's not just with this class 47, it's the same case with their other 47s as well. And it would be nice if Bachmann did this with their other diesel logos as well. It would be a nice little feature to have, whether you turn the lights off or on or not. Now we come on to the running performance of the model, and as you can see, the model ran faultlessly around the layout and very smoothly, just like as we expect it to, as it comes straight out of the box. You can also see the lights on this model as well. As you can see, you have the train reporting numbers and the cab interior that lights up, and you do have some tail lights as well. In daytime you can't see them because they are a little hard to see, but when the lights are turned off you can see them. So here are some shots of the model running around with the lights turned off so you can see the lights better, as well as the tail lights, and it just looks fantastic. There's no denying that. Now we come on to the loaded test run for the model, and Mammoth, you see him here, hauling the rake of chocolate and cream and pudding custard to the next rake of Mark 1s around the layout. And it had no problems at all hauling it, and that is why the weight is important. So overall, you know what, I don't think I even need to say anything, just to say how stunning this model is, because you've seen this model in detail, you've seen the working lights and its haulage capability and its running performance. It's just a fantastic model. Yes, taking the body off is a pain because you have to take the details out of the cab ends, and there are actually contacts on the ends of the cab details, and so it can be a pain to wiggle them out, and also getting the body back on is a little bit tricky, but that's not really a major issue enough to rate the model down, because it would be unfair to rate it down because it's just such a stunning model. And if you can get hold of one while you can, because there are only limited edition models produced of these, then I think you need to get your hands on one, because it makes an excellent addition to the layout, especially if you're a lover of this particular class of loco. So on that bombshell, I rate this model 10 out of 10. This has been Class 47 Peter, reviewing D1670 Mammoth, and I'll see you for the next review when we will be reviewing the Bachmann 4MT standard tank. But until then, all the best and have a great weekend.